They lose control of you, they're going to use the kids. This is one of the most painful realities of co-parenting with an abuser. You leave, you go to therapy, you coach with me, you start to detach, and suddenly they don't have access to your mind or your emotions anymore. Check mark, right? But then they're going to go after your heart, your children. Because if they can't control you directly, they'll do it indirectly. So I'm going to walk you through exactly how narcissistic, abusive exes use children to manipulate, control, destabilize, and just emotionally injure their ex-partners. And no, this is not just men. Women can absolutely be emotionally abusive parents too, but my channel focuses on abusive men because that's what my clients live through, and that's who I help. I'm Lisa Sunny. I'm the founder of Stronger Than Before Coaching, and I help clients break trauma bonds, rebuild after abusive relationships, and navigate co-parenting. If these topics hit home for you, click subscribe. Now, a narcissist will use weaponized visitation, right? They forget pickups. They show up insanely late. They cancel last minute. Or worse, they show up early and they demand access. This is not about parenting, right? It's about power. It's about control. They want you anxious. They want you off balance. So if they can keep your schedule unstable, your emotions are going to follow. And if your emotions follow, they've proven a point. You're still under their control. They'll use inappropriate disclosures, right? They're going to tell your kids about the court case, about your bad behavior, about your dating life. They'll paint themselves as the victim, and you're always going to be the villain. Now, while this is called parental alienation, I really urge you to just avoid that phrase in court. Because the truth is, it's more often used by abusers making a false allegation of alienation. You can actually really demonstrate this in court without using that phrase. And I'll come back to that statement shortly, so stick with me. Being alienated doesn't always look like full rejection. Sometimes it's poisoning the well, right? Subtle digs, comments that make your kids question your version of reality. And they're not trying to co-parent, they're literally trying to compete with you. They triangulate emotionally. They say things like, well, your mom said we can't do that, not me. Or, I'd love to come to your school event, but your mom doesn't want me there. And it turns your child into a middleman, right? A pawn, a messenger. And honestly, it's not just inappropriate, it's emotionally abusive. It teaches the child to manage your relationship with them, and it confuses the hell out of them because now love feels conditional, it feels divided, even performative. They might withhold affection or praise, right? Narcissistic parents often reward obedience with affection. And you see this a lot in the narcissistic family system, right? They're going to punish emotional closeness with the other parent, and they're going to be cold towards the child. So maybe the kids feel like they need to hide their love for you when they're with him. And this creates a kind of a split identity, like daddy's kid over there and mom's kid over here. And that's not just manipulation, it's emotional fragmentation. So circling back to what I said earlier about the phrase parental alienation, I really do encourage you to avoid using that term in legal settings. Delete that. Even if what's happening fits the actual definition. The unfortunate reality is that courts often see that phrase as a strategic accusation. And ironically, as it's most commonly used by abusers trying to regain control, it's maddening. But you could describe the behavior, the manipulation, the undermining, the involving the children in adult conflict, the emotional harm, without using that buzzword. I want you to talk about the impact on your child, how it's affecting their mental health, their stability, their ability to trust. That holds way more weight in court than labels do. Narcissists will bribe and indulge. And this one's subtle but deadly, right? Watch. He buys them all the toys. He takes them to theme parks. He lets them eat junk food, stay up late. You often hear this called Disney dad, right? Then they come home to structure at your place with rules, bedtime at 8. And guess who's the mean one, right? It's a manipulation tactic disguised as generosity. He's not trying to be a good dad. He's trying to make you the bad mom. So why do they do this, right? Why involve the kids? Here's the truth. It's not because they care. It's because the kids are connected to you. Anything connected to you becomes fair game. There are 3 primary motivators behind these behaviors, okay? Control. This is all about getting a reaction. If you cry, you plead, you rage, you beg, you tell them how they're hurting the kids, they win. Because now they're in charge of your emotions again. And for an abuser, control is the currency of power. The next is image management. They want to look like father of the year, even if they barely or never show up. They'll take selfies with the kids for Instagram, and then they're going to ghost them for like 2 weeks. But if they can spin that story, right? You're the unstable one. My ex is the gatekeeper. She won't let me see them. She's withholding. Then they maintain that false narrative. Punishment is the last one. You left. You exposed them. You're healing. The craziest thing is, even if they left you, you still deserve punishment. And the easiest way to hurt you, a mother, is through your child. It's disgusting, but it's true. This is why I work so closely with my coaching clients on emotional detachment. You're not going to be able to control what your ex does, but you can control how much access they have to your inner peace. That's one of the most powerful things that I teach: how to respond without reacting, how to hold firm, stay grounded, and stop letting him steal your time, your energy, or just your parenting joy. I also did a full 90-minute webinar on this called Emotionally Bulletproof Kids: How to Raise Strong and Confident Kids Amongst Chaos. I hosted it with this whole panel of experts: a child therapist, a trauma therapist, a psychologist, and a parent. We went so deep into the exact actionable strategies that support kids at any age when they're being exposed to an emotionally abusive or just neglectful parent. We talked about communication tools, boundaries, emotional literacy, how to validate your child without bashing your ex, because this is all about the balance of helping your kids and not getting slammed in court. How you can help them feel safe and seen. The webinar is linked in the description below, and I cannot recommend it enough. So here's what happens when you stop reacting, right? They escalate temporarily. Think guilt trips, concerned emails, threats to go to court. They provoke. The more calm you are, the more they poke and dig, right? Why? Because they're losing their grip. They even may try to flip the script. Suddenly they want 50-50 custody after years of indifference. Suddenly they want full custody after years of 50-50. It's not because they want the kids. They want leverage. And you know who they're going to use as the messenger? The kids. So what can you do? Document everything. Even if you don't use it now, it's protection later. Stay emotionally grounded, right? This is what we work on in coaching. It's not just coping, but leading. You're validating your child's experience, but you're not vilifying the other parent. Now, this is hard, but it's vital. Instead of saying your dad is lying, try, I hear that's confusing. You know, you're allowed to have your own thoughts and feelings about it. Now, something that I have said in shorter videos is that we shouldn't say things like, your dad is lying, and instead focus on the child's feelings. And I have had so many people accuse me of encouraging gaslighting. I wonder if you're thinking it right now too. Here's the nuance. Validating your child's experience isn't gaslighting. I would say that it's essential. Saying something like, I hear that's confusing. You're allowed to have your own thoughts and feelings about it. That's not denying what happened. You didn't say, no, he's not a liar. It's helping your child build emotional autonomy. You're actually giving them permission to just notice what they're feeling and to trust themselves. You're not inserting your own version of the truth into their head. Now, I recognize that your version of the truth is the absolute truth. I get that. Sometimes the other parent is lying. We as adults, we can see that. But the truth is that kids don't benefit from hearing you say, yeah, your dad's a liar. That doesn't build clarity. It builds internal conflict. Kids, especially under 18, they're just not emotionally or neurologically equipped to separate themselves from their parents. If you listen to child psychologists and attachment experts like Daniel Siegel, children don't hear he did something wrong. They hear half of me must be bad too. That's internalization, and that is so damaging. So when people say kids deserve the truth, actually, they deserve emotional safety. They deserve to not be in the middle of your war. They deserve at least one parent who's emotionally safe and grounded and actually focused on their needs. So we can accept that a child caught between two homes, one abusive and one nurturing, doesn't have two loving parents, right? We get that. But they can still have one. That's you. And that matters so much more than trying to force them to see what we see. And the research backs this up. All the studies in high conflict cases consistently show that when one parent bashes the other, even when it's justified, children develop higher rates of anxiety, depression, and identity confusion. It's not going to help them cope to know that their dad's a liar or that dad cheated on you or that dad was abusive. It only makes them feel torn and unsafe and emotionally responsible for fixing adult problems. So no, You don't lie to your kids. You don't deny what they've seen or felt. You validate it. You say, I hear you. That sounds upsetting. In fact, one of the co-hosts of Emotionally Bulletproof Kids, Joshua Terhune, the child therapist, he said to say, it makes sense that you feel that way. I loved that phrase. It got so much good feedback. You let children come to their own conclusions about their other parent in time based on their lived experience, not your pain. Because what they need from you most, it's not commentary, it's consistency. It's not proof, it's protection. Not your truth, but your stability. And most importantly, build resilience at home, right? Create a sanctuary, a space where your child knows who they are, knows what love feels like, and knows that home is safe, no matter what chaos is happening outside of it or at dad's house. When they lose control of you, they use the kids. And that doesn't mean that they win. It doesn't mean that you're powerless. It just means that you're up against someone who needs chaos to function, but you're going to choose peace for you and your kids. So keep going, keep healing, keep showing up for your children in a way that your ex never could, consistently, lovingly, and without a hidden agenda. If this video helped you, share it with someone who needs it and click subscribe. I want you to check out that webinar, Emotionally Bulletproof Kids, linked below. And remember, your peace is not negotiable, and neither is your child's physical or emotional safety.